True wisdom means showing less, not more.
Welcome to Prism of Torah with Rebbe Saf Aaron Prisman, engaging Divrei Torah, packed with stories and practical insights. Find us wherever you get your podcasts or at prismoftorah.org.
Shalom Avracha. In this week's Parshas Balak, I want to share with you a phenomenal concept that is brought down in a very unique way. We all know that Bilaam had a mission. Based on what Balak requested him to do, Bilaam came and tried to curse out the Jewish people. He was about to do so, but suddenly he saw something that changed everything, as Chazal tell us. Bilaam saw, the Psukim say, that the Jews were dwelling per tribe, meaning he saw that they were sitting the way they were camping. Each tribe was on their own. The Pasuk tells us that. Interesting. Why do we need that information? In fact, that piece of information was well known previously because we know how they were dwelling, each one with their camp, with their flag. So why is the Torah telling us this again? Is there something behind this piece of information that is relevant in this scene as well? What was it that he saw? What was it that HaKadosh Baruch Hu orchestrated that he will see so that he won't curse out the Jewish people, but rather bless them? As he said, Ma tov o'alecha Yaakov mishken loisecha Israel, which translates to, how good are your tents, Yaakov, your dwelling place, Israel. What did he saw? So that the Gemara in Bava Basra, Daf Samech Amud Beis, reveals the answer. The secret was he saw their windows and doors didn't align with their neighbors. And hence, this arrangement was a special level of tznius, of modesty, which deserves kedusha, holiness, which screams out, I want a blessing, Mishken Loisecha Yisrael, as it says, which is a proper vessel for the Shekhinah to dwell, and hence, it's not fitting to have a curse on that, but only a blessing. However, there's more than meets the eye. There's a deeper layer over here. What uncovers this deeper level? I saw an unbelievable diuk. I saw Rav Yaakov Galinsky in his Sefer making this diuk. He makes a phenomenal diuk, and he says, if you look carefully, Rashi on the Chumash does not just quote the Gemara in Bava Basra. He goes out of his way to tell us that what was unique about the openings, the windows, the doors of each tent, I would have thought it's there because everyone wants to ensure that they protect their own house that won't be seen by anyone from the outside. And that's a nice level of modesty. I don't want people to see what's going on in my personal home. That can cause ayin hara. I don't want people to see what I do. That's not modest. I'm a modest person. I want to have a proper fence around my garden that people won't see what's happening in my garden. However, Rashi says the opposite. If you look carefully in the words of Rashi, it's Pasuk Hey over there, Pasuk Beis or Pasuk Hey, Rashi says the opposite. He said the purpose was to prevent themselves from looking out into their neighbor's home, meaning not to prevent others to looking into my home, but to prevent myself to looking into others. Why is Rashi saying that? What's behind this? But I want to add another question, which bothered me. In Baruch Hashem, I saw the Maskil David ask this question as well. Maskil David is one of the Mefarshim of Rashi. We know that these psukim also make sure to tell us that each tribe, each shevet was dwelling on their own, meaning there was a certain formation, and each shevet was on their own. They were all together, but each shevet was on their own. But the obvious question is, we already know this piece of information. Why was it so important to say this? We know the formation of the flags and where everyone was situated. Why is the Torah telling us this again? What's behind this piece of information? So the Maskil David reveals a brilliant answer to this question. He says that you could have thought that the reason each person in the Jewish people ensured that they didn't have an opening that was aligned with the openings of their friend was because of the reason I thought, which is they wanted to ensure no one can look into their homes. That's tsanua, that's nice. And that prevents from ayin hara to hit you. He said, if that would have been true, yes, that's a certain level of tznius. But okay, that's not the highest level. That's not like, wow, there's something higher than that. And how does he prove that this is exactly what's happening? Which will, by the way, answer our question, how Rashi knew that the reason they ensured that their openings, their windows and door openings, are not aligned with each other is to ensure that each person won't look into his neighbor's house or tent. The proof to that is, thanks to this vital piece of information, that each tribe was settled on their own. Because Chazal tell us in numerous places that all the offspring of Yosef, which is the two Shvatim, Menashe and Ephraim, they were immune to the effect of Ayin Hara. Meaning, it wouldn't affect them if people looked into their houses. And hence, if they still decided that we wanted to ensure that the openings won't be aligned, it must be a different reason. It must be a higher level of tznius, which is that they said to themselves, we know that the purpose of why we're here is to do something. We're not going to look into our neighbor's house. What's the point of doing that? That can only lead to trouble. That can lead to thoughts such as, wait a second, how come he has this nice furniture and I don't? Look at his wife. How come my wife does it? And so on and so on. And this optical illusion can become a snowball effect, which is very dangerous. Hence, they secured themselves by ensuring the purpose of life is not by me looking at my friend's wife or my friend's furniture or my friend's kids. I have to look into my inner self and to ensure I continuously grow spiritually to mimic HaKadosh Baruch Hu's midot. There's an unbelievable Ksav Sofer. He asks, if you look at the top 10 commandments, i.e., the famous Aseres HaDibros, the 10 commandments, if you look carefully, you'll see that they all make sense. They're all very basic. But there's one in there that is a query. It's a big shaila. How did it make it to the top 10? Especially according to some Rishonim that explain that lo tachmod, thou shall not covet, is only by wanting what your friend has. What's the big deal? I didn't do anything. I didn't do any maises. So a person wants a wife like his friend's wife, or wants the type of kids he has, or wants the house he has. Why is it such a big sin that made it into the top 10? And he answers, because if you don't realize that the deck of cards you were dealt is precisely the tools that you require in order to do your avodas Hashem, and that's the unique task that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants you, and the unique mission that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants you to do in this world, then you are missing something. You, not just something, you're missing what the whole idea of this oilam, this world that Hashem put you in, is all about. Unfortunately, in our generation, this is totally backwards. People are willing to pay extra money, not for quality clothes, but for fake brands, as long as it has a brand name on it that people say, wow. They want the wow factor. Whereas the opposite should be true. You want high quality, fine, but don't show off it's such a brand name. That's not the point. The point, maybe you want high quality, that's okay. There are many examples of this in the Chumash, in Shas. We'll just bring one. Yosef understood this idea, and when he introduced the brothers to Paro, he didn't want to choose the ones that look unbelievable and strong. Quite the contrary. He ensured to take the ones that look the weakest. He didn't want to show off because he had the same idea. He didn't want people to say. Meaning he deliberately was avoiding any show of capabilities. True wisdom means showing less, not more. And by that we understand exactly why Rashi said what he said, which is that they ensured not to look into their friend's garden because they knew what life is all about. And that is an extreme high level of tznius that acted as a shield from the curse, but at the same time as a magnet for a blessing from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I would like to end off with a true story that Hidabrut not long ago came up with. And I'm going to summarize. I don't remember the names exactly. But once upon a time, we'll call her Rachel. There was this woman that first moved to Israel as a Baal Tshuva and married her Avrech husband. Her wealthy American parents were skeptical. Are you sure you want to make this change? You sure you want this lifestyle? It'll be so hard financially. That's what they warned her. But she was determined to build a home of Torah and to go in the ways of Hashem. To everyone's surprise, the young couple seemed to have it all. Her parents had given them a stunning house in a beautiful neighborhood and regularly sent them the most exquisite clothing for their children. Teachers at the girls' school would whisper to each other in the teacher's room, "Wow, look at their house. Wow, look at the designer outfits. They really have it all. They are really well put together." The community saw wealth and ease. It seemed like the perfect life that everyone could only dream of. However, behind this beautiful scene lived a different truth. Or we should say the only truth. If you open the refrigerator, you'd find only the basic necessities. It was very empty. It just had the basic necessities. They survived on the most basic necessities while surrounded by trappings of wealth they couldn't even convert to money. The irony was very painful for them because they couldn't sell the house as it was a gift from the very parents who had questioned their choice of lifestyle. Every month as they struggled to buy groceries, that magnificent house stood as both a blessing and a reminder of their parents' original doubts. What looked like the rich and famous life was actually their precisely calibrated pekale they had to carry with. Their Mesiras Nefesh for Torah was unbelievable, but it did have a financial struggle. They had such a challenge of maintaining dignity while surrounded by wealth they couldn't access, gifts that met some needs while creating others. Exactly the Nakuda we're trying to bring out. Their privileged circumstances were exactly the Nisayon designed for their neshamas. Yiratzon, we all realized that the deck of cards we were dealt during good times and less good times are the deck of cards we were meant to be in order to accomplish our mission in this world. Have a good Shabbos.
This concludes another episode of The Prism of Torah. Thank you for tuning in today. We hope you enjoyed it and learned something valuable. If you did, please subscribe to the podcast and give a 5-star rating. You can also find this podcast wherever you get your podcasts or our own website, prismoftorah.com, where we have a full archive of all our past episodes. We would like to thank Yona Vefa for the recording equipment and Eli Podcast Productions for handling all our post-podcast productions. Join us next week for another enlightening conversation on The Prism of Torah.